not only was it scale for us, but it was scale for our friends and family to get involved with us and be able to co-invest and co-lend with us, which is way more impactful than a lot of other things that we can do, right? Like, and
Yes.
I think that's what's important about it, is that we're helping not only ourselves, you know?
Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to take your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larson. If you haven't yet, get a copy of our book for free at our website, nextlevelincome.com. That's www.nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link, and I'll even send you a copy if you put your address in. On today's show, we have Ian Horowitz. Since his first rental property purchase in 2012, Ian has broadened his involvement in real estate with property flipping, assisting troubled homeowners stay in their homes, providing housing for subsidized tenants, and now working actively in the self-storage industry. Currently, Ian and his team own and operate 700,000 square feet of self-storage. He's excited that he has earned his retirement from firefighting to be fully engaged with his family and in the company he co-founded with Daniel Math, Equity Warehouse. Ian is a licensed private pilot and enjoys his free time in the skies. And today he's going to share his story with you. Ian, welcome to the show.
What's up, Chris? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. It's great to see you here today. We are getting back in the groove after the hurricanes have come through Western Carolina here, so it's fun to kind of settle back in a little bit. And I'm looking out the windows. The leaves are beautiful. They're changing. But today, I'm excited to talk about your change that you've gone through, Ian, with your background, as well as what you're doing today. And I'm going to turn it over to you to share a little bit more about kind of how you ended up and founded Equity Warehouse.
Yeah, so let's see. I'm gonna try to ease into this one here. So just to give you guys like a example we do today, it's Equity Warehouse, and we invest in commercial real estate, and we have our friends and family co-invest or co-lend with us on the opportunities we see fit. But we had very, very humble beginnings, and to take it all the way back to like pre-investment career, all me and my business partner Dan wanted to do was be big city career firemen. We grew up outside of Philadelphia. We graduated in 2000, 2001. So we hit 9/11 era. We were already volunteering at the local firehouse. And our goals, and a few of our other friends, our whole goal was to be career firemen. You saw the guys from New York that happened on 9/11, and there was just something about like, Philadelphia, all these big cities. And it's like, man, those guys were career firemen for 30 years and they got all these cool stories and they got a side business. And it just seems like everything's like put together. And, it was intriguing. And I was also going through like a very rough part of my life. My dad had, was very sick and wound up passing away. I was taking care of my younger brother, and I needed some sort of rigidity in my life. And while it's not like super military, it is paramilitary. And that's what firefight, like, it gave me some sort of substance to work off of.
Yeah.
And that's how we became firemen. And if you would have recorded this show, which I would never be a guest on the show 10 years ago, but if you'd be like, hey man, like, what are you doing? I'd be 6 years into my, a few years into my career, 4, 5, 6 years into our careers. And I'd say, well, I'm going to be a fireman for the rest of my next 30 years of my life, and I'm not doing anything else. And I guess I didn't say it, but we wound up becoming career firemen for the city of Baltimore. If you ever watch The Wire, that is where
Oh
we
yeah.
were. It is
Yeah.
all true. And if you
It
watch
is.
the riots that happened in the
Yeah.
early teens, that
Yeah.
CBS that was on fire was 3 blocks from my firehouse.
Oh wow.
And
Yeah.
all of it is absolutely 100% true. And it was an eye-opening, interesting experience to say the least. So
Yeah. Love The Wire. It's one of my all-time favorite series. And what's the dude with the big scar on his face? I'm trying to remember his name now.
Omar.
Omar.
Yep.
That's right.
Omar coming.
Omar.
Omar
Yeah,
coming.
Omar coming. That's right. If you come at the king, you best not miss, right?
Yeah.
That was my favorite line from Omar. But yeah, so Ian, I think, it's something, there's something about being a fireman because we have our friend that owns a landscape business. He's a fireman. I have another guy I met through a coaching program. He's a fireman out in California. There seems to be a kind of almost like an entrepreneurial bend to firemen or firefighters compared to some of the other services. Have you seen that, or is there some reason? Is there something that kind of seems to aggregate firefighters in the entrepreneurial space?
Yeah, I'll give you what I think is the right reason, and
Yeah,
then I'll give you the wrong reason, but it relates to
yeah,
everything we're about to talk about. The right reason is, think about it, we're in an industry that we give back and we care about people, and it's not
yeah,
about sex, it's not about race, it's not about any of that crap. It's about
yeah,
you're in a time of need. We're here to help you. And I know
Yeah.
right before we started recording this show, you were telling me about how like, hey, you're telling your sons like, hey, like we just had this flood. We need to go help our neighbors, and this is what we do in a time of need. Well, that's what we do. And it's like, well, it's just a natural, hey, so and so calls, they need a light hung. And then that turns into I need a painting job done. And it's like, yeah, I'll do it and I'll make a few extra bucks. And there are like other things that go along with that. And this is where kind of like the bad side, but I think it's like
Mm.
super important to discuss is like you got a lot of guys that aren't good money managers. Wealth
Yeah.
creation's not taught in the fire department. So these dudes are just cash grabbing. They're getting divorced. Guys, you're in a stressful environment all the time. So people pick up
Yeah.
addictions and they just need money to
Mm.
support gambling and drinking and some
Wow.
other issues. And I'm not trying to highlight the bad, but
Yeah.
it is kind of like related to, hey, I need to survive. I'm in survival mode all the time. How do I make extra money? And really, that's what it was for me. We were working two 10-hour days, two 14-hour nights, 4 days off. And I said, well, I can work before my 2 nights off, 2 nights on, and then I can work my 4 days off. And I'm working 8 days a month, and now I got two jobs, and I can make all this money. And my wife's like, "Hey, we want to have kids," and I'm like, "Shit, like, yeah, like, but I can still work all these days." She's like, "No, like, we're gonna have to like figure out how to take care of our kids, and I want to stay home." And I'm like, "Uh-oh," and really, that's what it is. But I do believe from the positive side, people want to help
Yeah.
out, but then from
Yeah.
the other side, there's a lot of need for money, and yeah, like we risk our lives, not only us, but police officers and
Yes.
military, we
100%.
do not get paid a lot. Like
No,
for a high
it's not worth.
school
Yeah.
education, it's good money, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
great job, good money. You're putting your life on the line, but I mean,
Yeah.
we should really be paid. And now that I'm on the other side, I 1,000% believe that all those people that are risking their lives should be paid as much as professional athletes. And I understand why they
Yeah.
don't. But come on, man, those guys are
Yes.
ready at a becking call to come, guys and gals, to come and help us. And I think that's the thing that gets lost. And that's why
Yeah.
people are always looking to make extra money.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, I mean, 100%. My mother was a school teacher, and you look at anybody that's in the public service arena. I work with doctors. There's a lot of great doctors. Some, some aren't, but people in general in these different industries. Obviously, doctors make more than firemen, well, for the most part. Um, but yeah, you have people that want to give back and help. And I was wondering, you also get a fair amount of time off. So it gives a little bit of time. So if you have an entrepreneurial bend to you, you can go out there and do these other things. But I do think that's lost sometimes in the, especially in the political landscape we're in, where, we've been talking about, equality for women. And, I think, but a lot of people forget that most of the jobs you mentioned, Ian, firefighters, military, police officers, the guys like our friends that are going up and climbing trees and cutting trees down and doing these things. These are jobs where your lives are on the line every day.
Right.
And how do it's hard to measure. I don't know how you do it. Like, how do you measure the risk of losing your life versus compensation? But it seems like it certainly is not a fair balance there. So, yeah, it is amazing, especially when you see these crises like the one we just went through in Western North Carolina. These are all the same people: retired ex special forces, firemen, police officers. These you know arborists and people that are going out. They're the ones that know how to save people's lives and do that.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is like you can't put a dollar amount, and they
Yeah.
try to between life insurance policies and what's your pension worth, how we're
Yeah.
going to cover you, God forbid. And when I
Yeah.
left the fire department, they we wound up three people that Dan and I worked with really close had got killed in the line of duty a few
Oh,
months after we left, and then
yeah.
about a year after that, a rookie of ours got killed in a fire, and
Mm.
it's like, dude, you can't
Yeah.
even value that.
No.
I hate to say
Yeah.
it, like where the hurricane hit, it almost
Yeah.
couldn't have hit in a better spot because you have people that are resourceful. And like a lot of
Yeah.
that gets lost nowadays of
Yeah.
like, well, go to college and go do this and go do that. And like, let's not learn life skills. And, you got two boys, I got two girls.
Yeah.
I tell my wife all the time, and she says the same exact thing. She said, before our girls drive, they're going to learn how to change their oil. They're going to learn how to change tires. God forbid they have an issue.
Yes.
And I think these life skill sets get lost. And that's why firemen and police officers and military and like those type of jobs lend to those guys being able to do additional side work
Yeah.
because people do want like, hey, that's like the local, like there's a trust factor there too. And it's
Yeah.
like, hey, you're the local fireman, cool, I'll hire you to do my landscaping, and that you become trustworthy immediately.
Yeah.
And then there are also this skilled labor that doesn't exist in society right now. And there's career paths outside of, and I have two girls, so maybe my career paths for my daughters might be a little bit different.
Mhm.
Maybe they do have to go college bound, but I hope they come to me one day and just say, no, I'd rather put money into starting a business because
Yeah.
that means I've succeeded as a parent. And I'm sure maybe you probably think something similar. Like if they came home and
Yeah.
said, hey, trade school, yeah, dude, great industry behind that.
Oh, and especially in today's day and age where
Yeah.
there's a dearth of that. You don't have as many people going out, and you not only if you go to trade school is it less costly than college, but you can potentially make more per hour coming out, and there's a shorter path to owning your own business, which I think is tremendous. And to your point, I think one of the things that they teach in my older son's school is the quote unquote dignity of manual labor, and like you also said, Ian, this area that hit, one of the things that we heard was, hey, we need chainsaws, we need supplies, we need oil, we need fuel. We also need you to get some of these people out here that are trying to help because we can do this ourselves, which is, it's pretty impressive to hear when you have private individuals out there rebuilding the roads, the bridges, removing trees from their neighbor's land and doing that. So yeah, I really appreciate that that philosophy because it does sometimes get lost in the higher education realm that we're in
Yeah.
today. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's also like how we led into a path of investing in real estate because it was
Yeah.
like, do we trust the government? Like, I got to trust Baltimore City to pay out my pension. Like, dude, they're a step up of Detroit. You know what I mean? And sitting there watching these guys work their whole careers and then like risk like not having anything on the backside or saying
Yeah.
I'm going to retire and go work at Walmart. I'm like, bro, like
Wow.
you
Yeah.
just worked 40 years here. Now you got to go work there because you didn't save enough or you're afraid the city like when we got hired, we hired in '07 and '08, and there was the global
Hmm.
financial crisis and California goes bankrupt, Detroit goes bankrupt, private industries start going bankrupt and it was like, "Uh-oh, what are we doing here?" And I'm sitting there going, "Man, I just traded like I understand that I traded some money in exchange for security. But now they're talking about furloughs. They're talking about pension system
Mm.
issues. They're talking about layoffs. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, I'm about to pour my life into this place and I might put my life on the line.
Yeah.
My wife's not going to be taken care of later on in life. And,
Mm.
that was one of them. And like also like I mentioned earlier, starting that family
Yeah.
like became really important to me of like, well, if I become incapacitated or I get killed, how's my wife going to survive? And if I have a landscaping business or a trade type business for her to step in and take that over after I've just been incapacitated in whatever way,
Yeah.
you want to imagine, that would be so stressful for her.
Yeah.
Mature business owner me today would say, well, I could put the right people in place and she
Yeah.
wouldn't have that issue. But
Yeah.
me in that infancy stage, I was like, no, 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 no. How can I make money while I'm asleep at work? And
Yep.
how can it be something that God forbid something happens to me, she still gets cash flow
Yeah.
and then she can sell it off. She can hire a property manager. She can manage it
Yes.
herself and take care of herself. But the most important thing she can do is take care of our family and our
Yes.
household and worry about what we going on. God forbid I'm not here. And that was really what started us down the road of real estate investing.
And that's a perfect segue. So let's talk about that first property, because I know you do a lot in more of the commercial space now, but let's talk about that first property. And that was back in 2012. You bought that first
Yeah.
property. Yep.
Yeah. End of 2012. Guys, super, 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 super humble beginnings.
Yeah.
My credit score was below 600. It was 570, something like that. Don't ask why I had 15 grand saved up in the bank, but we did. And I had been meetups and reading some books. And I said, and we had some mutual family friends that had bought some houses and we wanted to go down the subsidized route. And
Okay.
that's what we decided to do. So I bought my first house for $25,000.
Wow.
My
Yeah, you could do that
accounting
up in Baltimore,
practices
man. I remember that.
were
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, especially post for global financial crisis, you
Yeah.
could literally find anything. I didn't know what a wholesaler was, so guy made 5 grand on me. Whatever, good.
Yeah.
Bought the thing for 25 grand. I maybe put 25 to 30 grand. I don't know. I think I was all in around 50, 60 grand. And I got a subsidized tenant at $1,250 rent for a 3 bedroom, one bath for something that I put together. Like I said, I don't know if I did it right. I don't know if I did it wrong,
Yeah.
but it got done. And I got that tenant and I was like, holy crap, man. 1250, even with my hard money loan, I was cash flowing, 500, $600 a month. And then when I refinanced it, I was cash flowing almost 800 bucks a month. There was no overtime. There was like no like promotion opportunities. I'm like
Yeah.
800 bucks is like three overtime shifts. This is amazing. How do I do it again? And we were
Yeah.
hooked immediately the first one. And 6 months later, I bought house number two. But yeah, that first house I was bought, it was in the 4x4, 4 blocks by 4 blocks. That's why they call it the 4x4,
Yeah.
in the east part of Baltimore.
Mm.
And not the best location, not the best house. If I had it, looking back at it today, would I have the same house today? Probably not. But you know what? I went out there, I did it, I swung the bat,
Yeah.
and that was really what launched us into our careers to where we are today.
I love that. I love that. Do you think I said you might not buy, or you just said you might not buy that same property in that same location today, Ian. But one of the challenges is today, we're talking about what, 12 years later, prices are higher, rates are higher. What do you think that house is worth today, or do you still own it?
No, we had sold that house a few
Yeah.
years ago for about 125 grand. So we did make money. We made
Yeah.
cash flow. That was a win.
Yeah.
Today, somebody's going to pay 50 to 70 grand for that same shell.
Yeah.
Their cost is going to probably be, 50 to 70 grand. They're going to be all
Yep.
in for that thing for a buck 25, and that's about
Yeah.
what it's worth. But that was my
Yeah.
original, it was a great setup for me. My
Yeah.
original plan was to buy 10 houses worth
Yep.
$150,000, and
Yep.
that over my 30-year firefighting career, they would get paid off cash
Yep.
flow. And at the very, very end, I'd have $1.5 million available to me 30 years from now. And it's like
Yeah.
so silly. It's like silly looking back on it now, but that was my goal. That was my path. That's
Yeah.
what I needed to do to work on.
Yeah.
So,
Dude, I love it. I bought a book in college called Buy and Hold, and that
okay.
was my same plan. Now, my goal was a little but it's 10. I was like, hey, I want $10,000 a month
Right.
in cash flow coming in once I pay these mortgages off. So yeah, very similar. And I'll never forget. Actually, I was up at a meeting in the DC area with Sherman Ragland by chance. He
I
did a lot in
do.
Baltimore.
I
Yeah,
know the name. Yeah.
yeah. This is Sherman, like he took me into downtown Baltimore one day. You can imagine this skinny white boy that raced bikes, in my suit, and he drags me into downtown Baltimore, sitting in this yeah, old warehouse. But yeah, so I'll never forget. He said, "Well, why would you want to pay off the properties when you could refinance them or sell them?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's a great point. Why would you want to do that?" But to anybody listening, it's a great place to start because it gives you options. You can always refi out. You can sell that property. You can do a 1031. You can do all kinds of different things with that. When did you see the light, Ian, when you said, wait a minute, there's a better way to do this. There's different ways to do it. There's faster ways to do it.
Yeah, so the first 10 houses I did on my own. My business partner got jammed up. He was doing work for me. He's like, "Why am I working for you? F this." And so
Yeah.
he had some issues. He got jammed up on a refi on his personal house, needed to get out of debt. So he started wholesaling. And then
Okay.
he had wholesaled me a house or two. Oh, yeah, that's cool what you're doing, because I still really didn't understand it. He comes to me one day and says, "Hey man, I got these four houses. I want to wholesale three of them, and I want to flip the fourth. I want to with you." And we grew up together outside of
Yeah.
Philly. I've known his wife since this big, and he's known my wife since
Yeah.
the same size. And we're close. Our families are
Yeah.
intertwined. And I was just like, "All right, man, let's do it." So we
Can,
wholesaled
can
the three.
do
Was
you
that?
mind just pausing for one quick second, Ian? For those that aren't familiar with what a wholesale is, can you just explain like what wholesale versus retail, fix and flip, those sorts of things, those terms real quick?
Yeah, so like retail, we would go
Yeah.
to MLS, realtor.com, Zillow, right? We would just
Hmm.
buy it right off with a realtor.
Yeah.
Wholesale, there's people out there that are out there picking up contracts, and saying, okay, let's just say the house is worth 100 grand. They come to me and say, "Hey man, like I can't be into this thing more than 70 grand. I'm willing to give you 25 because it's going to cost you 50 to fix it up." And I'm like, "Okay, I get it, dude." And I say, "Sure, I'll sign my contract." And then that guy who's the quote unquote wholesaler will then turn to Chris and say, "Hey man, I got this great house at $35,000. I'll assign you my rights in
Hmm.
this contract. In exchange for that, I'm going to take a $10,000 fee."
Yeah.
And you would say, "Okay, sure, I'll do that deal because maybe you can do it a few bucks cheaper. You really like the neighborhood." And so you buy it. Well, at the time of the
Yeah.
closing, Chris picks up $10,000. I get my $25,000. Chris pays the extra 10 to the wholesaler, and that wholesaler made 10 grand. And it's a great way to start for
Love that.
quote unquote no money out of pocket, right? Like you can put
Yeah.
up bandit signs, get leads. You can go door knocking, get leads. Like it does not cost
Yep.
any money to really do that. All you got to do is be willing to answer the phone, be able to use some common sense, which I guess isn't that common. I
Yeah.
just just started laughing as I'm saying common sense. But either way,
Love
using
it.
some
Yeah.
your data around you to say, hey man, like I think
Yeah.
this house is worth X. I'm gonna look all the crap out of them, be willing to hear no and do that. And that's how my business partner started. And
Yeah.
he got really good at it. And he made a couple $100,000 and got himself out of debt. Came
That's
to me
awesome.
in 2014. I had 10 rental properties, and he said, hey man, what I'm willing to do is let's flip the three and sell the fourth. And we made 75 grand ish on the wholesale fee and maybe another 50 or 60 grand on the sale of the property. And we made a total of well over six figures. And I said, holy shit, that was cool. Can you do that again? He's like, yeah, I'll dig around. And it
Yeah.
took a few more months to find another house. What was coincidental is the first one was 1112 Scott Street and the second one was 1112 Steelton. So I don't
How
know what
about that?
11 and 12 significant in our life, but they are. And the second one we flipped, we made another 30 or 40 grand. I said, dude, game on. And this is
Yeah.
2014. Like, guys, we
Yeah.
had no clue. We're at the absolute bottom and we're about to
Yep.
experience tailwinds. But what we were
Yeah.
able to do is we were able to go out and raise some money.
Yeah.
I went out and found money. Dan found deals, and off we went. And we just started flipping houses. And
Yeah.
really that's where we started to say, holy crap, like we can build a company while we're at work. And, you know, maybe a year into that, we're flipping 30, 40 houses a year. I mean, legitimately flipping them, not wholesaling.
Right.
We're
Right.
buying them, renovating them, and selling them at retail. We were doing 30
Absolutely.
to 40 houses a year and hiring employees, getting contractors to come and do it. The speed to completion was so much faster. And it was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Game on. And that was really like 2015. Yeah, by the end of 2015, it was like, oh
Yeah.
shit, like we have a legit company.
Yeah.
Let's go do this.
No, I love that. And that's, I think a lot of people, they don't realize that there's this whole wholesale game out there. And, that's how my wife and I we were buying land to build spec homes, but we got the land direct from owners where we just sent letters, dropped off note cards, did things like that. And years after we stopped doing that, Ian, people would still call my wife and say, hey, do you still want to buy this lot or this house with a lot next door? And, everybody is in a different situation. Not everybody goes through MLS or, they need money quickly or, they just don't want to deal with the hassle. So it's a great option to get a good deal. And I think, like you said, at that point in time, it worked really well. Sorry, you were about to say something.
No, yeah, no, people couldn't
Yeah,
sell anything. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but
yeah.
like I think the
No, it's all good.
important
Are you a high income business owner or professional earning 300,000 or even more a year, but still feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck? Are you comfortable working until you're 65 or 70 to retire? Or do you want to achieve financial independence and live life on your own terms? You could join myself and Matt Four and learn how we both became financially dependent in our early 30s. We will teach you how to make, keep, and grow your money, teaching you strategies to maximize your earnings, keep your income that you've earned through tax strategy and legal structures, and ultimately teach you how to grow it by determining your personal investing strategy, as well as teach you how to analyze investments so you can grow your passive income to the point to live life on your own terms. Our coaching clients reliably do this in 7 years or less. To learn more, check out our coaching program at nextlevelincome.com/coaching. That's nextlevelincome.com/coaching.
the important message here is like it's a tool in the toolbox, right?
Yep.
Like, and that was one thing being a fireman. There's plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, and we're
Mm-hmm.
staying here until this fire is out, right? Like that's the one
Yep.
competitive advantage that
Yeah.
we had. And it's like, all right, this fire is going out. Well, we got to stay here until this fire's out, and then we'll relinquish it back to the building. It was the same thing in our business. It's like, yo, there's a fire burning. Let's go put it out.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, we just wholesaled a house the other day. Someone called and we made 60 grand in a matter of like 5 minutes, right? Like, granted, it was an existing relationship, past
Yeah.
fireman who we had worked with. His uncle received a house, told me exactly what he wanted for it. We said, yep, that makes sense. Looked it up, said, wow, you want 130? I think I can get 195. Then hung up the phone. Well, I didn't even do it. My operations manager did it. Ryan picks up the phone, calls our other buddy and says, hey, I got this house. Yeah, I'll give you a buck 95 for it. Cool. Made 60 grand like that. But here's the thing. If I would have said no, right? We don't
Mhm.
do that. We only do commercial real estate. Sorry,
Yeah.
buddy, you're out. Like I missed out on 60 grand. It's not my primary way to make income,
Yeah.
not my primary source of income. But when the leads come to you, it's like, okay, what do you do with them? And
Right.
when you were saying about your wife still getting phone calls, it's like, how cool is that, dude? Like you marketed forever and like you still have this extra revenue stream that comes in. You know what? Yeah. I know a guy that'll buy that. Let me flip that real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's building up that pipeline. So, you just said that, that's not your primary business now. Tell the audience what you and Dan are up to now and how you've scaled your business into what it is today.
Yeah, so we primarily invest in commercial real estate. The majority of it's in self-storage and industrial, but we do apartment buildings, office, and a little bit of everything, some ground
Yeah.
up stuff, right? Like in the end, we're opportunistic investors is really what we are. If you
Yeah.
looked at our portfolio, it'd be like, you guys don't concentrate on one,
Hmm.
but we do. You know what we're really good at, and like a piece of the timeline that we kind of skipped is like we started flipping houses, and then we built a rental portfolio, and we built 300 houses in a really short period of time. We got really, really, really good at construction. And then we applied that same skill set to commercial real estate.
Yeah.
The difference was I didn't have to do 300 houses. I could do one gigantic project or two gigantic projects in 1 year and make tenfold the money.
Yeah.
And that's what was really exciting about commercial real estate. The other cool thing about that with self-storage and industrial and apartment buildings is what
Yeah.
is I can get my friends and family involved because as we
Yeah.
started to have success and we started taking more time off of work and then we finally left our jobs, everybody was like, "Yo, dude, what's up? Like, what are you guys doing? Like, I
Yeah.
don't get it." And we're like, "Could you imagine if I was like, hey man, invest in this like $150,000 row home in
Right.
Baltimore and like we're gonna spend $300 a month cash flow if everything else goes right." Like nobody wants to be a part. Like, yeah, some people do, but like there's
Yeah.
no scale there. When I'm like,
Right.
yo, dude,
Right.
76 unit apartment building up the street from so and so firehouse on White Avenue. Yeah, dude, I always noticed that place. What's up with it? Yeah, well, we're buying it. Oh shit, I want in, right? Like,
Yeah.
so not only was it scale for us, but it was scale for our friends and family to get involved with us and be able to co-invest and co-lend with us, which I think
Yeah.
is way more impactful than a lot of other things that we can do, right? Like, and
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
that's what's important about it is that we're helping not only ourselves.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. And that's what has been driving us the past several years because, people want to know how they can do that, especially when people that have such a servant mentality as you guys do, Ian. And then ultimately, how old are your girls now, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, mine are 10 and
Yeah.
going on 6. So,
Yeah. Awesome. So you'll get to teach them how to build wealth, how to create wealth and do those things. And, that's one of the things I wanted to touch on earlier, which is, I think it's so important to teach the next generation, like I was saying, the dignity of manual labor and, how to undergo, some of these challenges. It's one of the things I love about having my boys in sports because, they get beat up, they learn how to lose. They're in lacrosse. I love the fact that not everybody's a winner. There's winners, there's losers. And we were up actually in Baltimore for a lacrosse tournament this summer, and my younger son made it to the championship, and they lost and he came off the field and he was crying and because he cared and I love that. And I said to him, I said, you might not know this right now, but this is exactly what was supposed to happen. He looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, I said, Miles is his name. I said, it's just as important to win as it is, or it's just as important to lose as it is to win, especially in these early days, to understand that you can go back and have that, that fire in your belly and do that. And I think that it's those things, it's those experiences, um, you know, scraping by, like you were saying, having, growing up in an environment where, my grandmother made my clothes for me and getting made fun of, at school every day and saying, what, there's got to be a better way to do this. And having those things. I think that's the real challenge. How do you balance those things, Ian, with your family? Giving your girls a tremendous future, but also kind of teaching them some of the lessons that you and I had to learn, the hard way, so to speak.
I've asked this same
Yeah.
question in mastermind rooms where there's been like
Yeah.
more successful people than me. I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
bro, like you come from the same kind of background. Like, how do you instill that in
Yeah.
your kids? And
Yeah.
a lot of people are just like, hey, it's honesty and transparency and just
Yeah.
showing them what you're doing. And this
Yes.
morning I was having a conversation with my podcast co-host, and
Yeah.
I was like, hey Jay, I said, I think the definition of success is like if your kids want to come and work for your company, right? Because like my wife grew up in a family that was entrepreneurial. She didn't want to go work for the family business, and there was like
Hmm.
this resentment because they were forced to do it rather than being like,
Ah,
hey,
this is an
this is how
option.
we make money, or like, do you
Yeah.
want the opportunity to earn money in this
Yeah.
fashion? And there was like almost like forced labor, and so there was some
Yeah.
resentment in regard
Yeah.
to that. So for me, like showing
Yeah.
them just like a good life and get good life experiences, and the fact that we have the ability, we've chosen to homeschool, and it's been one of the greatest experiences. And while I think they're probably just a little young, my 10-year-old's just starting to get it, because she's playing kids with people that go to public school and private school. And when we go to Charleston for a week in the middle of the school year, she's like, well, wait, what's going on? So we're just
Yeah.
starting to have those conversations. And I think that experience, the time freedom, like, in the end, and this is probably like a twofold answer to another question, is like, what's
Yeah.
success? It's really just freedom of time. It has nothing to do with
Yeah.
money. I think if everybody
Love
has
that.
free, time freedom, that's really
Yeah.
what success is. If you could show your kids that, and
Yeah.
who knows, maybe they don't want to work for a family business, but if they know
Hmm.
that, like, hey, this is important to me and I put that first, and then I can build a career around that,
Yes.
then let's go. And it's taken me a lot of years shaking my old identity as a fireman to realize, like,
Yeah.
hey, this is the important stuff to me that makes me tick. And,
Yeah.
I've heard it in a lot of other rooms. I'm like, yeah, that's silly. And now I'm like, ah, shit, those guys were right. They're just like, but you know what? You got to
Yeah.
learn it yourself, right? You got to
That's
learn it
right.
yourself. So,
No, I love that. And I was looking at your Monopoly man in the back, and we got Monopoly pieces on the front of our book, and
yep.
we're actually playing Monopoly with our boys this past weekend at a lacrosse tournament.
Nice.
And it was fun because we were buying they were buying the properties and the houses, and they see us doing it in real life. And if you're a new listener to the show, we have 5 steps to help teach your kids to be money pros at nextlevelincome.com/kids. Nextlevelincome.com/kids. You'll get a free copy of the chapter right out of this book, No Problem Parenting, that I co-authored here. But Ian, for those listeners that want to learn more about what you and Equity Warehouse are doing, what's the best way to get in touch with you to learn more?
Yeah, the best way to track us down is equitywarehouse.com. You can learn how we co-invest and co-lend with all of our friends and family. We'll show you live case studies
Yeah.
of exactly what we've done. I'm on all the social media network, Equity Warehouse. I do think I just updated my Instagram to Ian Horowitz, but we do have an Equity Warehouse page. Most active on Instagram. If you want to track down, definitely respond. And yeah, we're out there just giving back, and I want to see other people succeed. I have a near and dear to my heart is first responder financial freedom. And I want to
Love that.
see, if you're a first responder, please reach out. But anybody, don't be shy. If I never reached out to the person who reached out to, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So
Yeah. Ian, I love that. Thank you for that. And yeah, check out Ian and his team at Equity Warehouse. They're doing great things. Ian, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been a wonderful conversation. And yeah, hopefully we get to see each other in person sometime, whether I'm up there in the Baltimore, Philly area, or if you and your family are ever down in Asheville, as we kind of stabilize, let us know.
will do. I can't wait for it.
Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.